Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and I want to talk about physical Dungeons & Dragons. So a lot of people will talk to you about digital Dungeons & Dragons and tell you that Dungeons & Dragons is going digital, right? But the reality is, that's only if you stop thinking. The reality is Dungeons & Dragons is going majorly physical. And so Dungeons & Dragons is connecting itself again and again and again to very real, very physical product, right? And it's doing it significantly. And why that's important, right? Like, so if Marvel connects itself to a physical product, you know, they're like they do it all the time. Like they, like, hey, I'm Tony Stark. Let's put Tony Stark's face on a towel, right? Like, and it doesn't really mean anything. And the reason why is Dungeons and Dragons is a storytelling engine. It uses a central creator. It uses the experiencer, and it uses the math rocks. It uses fate itself to craft a narrative, to build stories, right? So when you take any product in the world and logically connect it to Dungeons and Dragons officially, right? You are, in my humble opinion, very much permissioning dungeon masters to tell stories in the worlds that your product is already connected to, right? So this already exists on not six products, 6 literal physical product platforms, okay? And I remember them by Pop Lego Magic, and then KKY, which is, so Funko Pop, Lego, Magic the Gathering, those are the big dogs, right? Each one of those connects Dungeons & Dragons to literally over 1,000 worlds each. It's astounding. Like, Magic the Gathering connects Dungeons & Dragons to literally 1,000 worlds. Lego, probably 3,000 or 4,000 different worlds. It's bonkers, the number of worlds that are under Legos. And Funko Pop is another. Easily 1,000 intellectual properties, 1,000 distinct worlds are connected directly to Dungeons & Dragons through Funko Pop, through Lego, through Magic the Gathering. Some smaller ones, Kid Robot creates miniatures in different scales and different mediums, right? They create models, which in my opinion really constitute miniatures, right? For Dungeons & Dragons. So Kid Robot connects Dungeons & Dragons to a small number of worlds, but some of the most unique worlds that Dungeons & Dragons is connected to, like Labbits, whatever, right? Like, and I said that dismissively. I'm not dismissive. There's so many worlds that Dungeons & Dragons is connected to. I just don't have time to master them all, right? We all have to choose what worlds, and what that means is there's going to be these incredibly valuable subject matter experts, right? And so what do I mean by subject matter experts? Well, Labbits, right? Like, Labbits are these, like, really artistically painted abstract rabbit miniatures, right? Now, like, for some people they're like action figures, but for Dungeons & Dragons and the scale, they're literally like miniatures, right? And the thing is, I don't understand the Labbit IP, right? But if you get a dungeon master who understands Dungeons & Dragons and understands Labbits, right, you could have this incredibly unique story that no one else in the world can tell, right? Like, and that narrative is unleashed, because it's not going to be the same blasé, like, antiquated storytelling you would find in a novel. It's going to be this really unique, special type of storytelling, really special and really unique, right? So Kid Robot, Creo is a defunct Lego competitor, right? But it connected Dungeons & Dragons to Star Trek and Cityville. Kid you not, right? And then last, Yahtzee. Yahtzee, if you don't know this, Yahtzee is connected to 50, maybe 100 different worlds, right? And Dungeons & Dragons, you can get an official Dungeons & Dragons Yahtzee tower, and you get 5 official D&D dice with those. So my current campaign uses a J. Scott Garibay custom mix of physical Dungeons & Dragons product, right? So I use the official D&D Tower with the official D&D Yahtzee, and they both have mechanical benefits in the game, leveraging page 4 on the Dungeon Master Guide. The rules aren't in charge, you're in charge. And so there are mechanical benefits tied to those physical Dungeons & Dragons official products, right? And it goes further. So, and then I use Magic the Gathering cards, literally to advance experience. And I use minifigs. I use Lego minifigs as my official D&D miniatures, because there's an official D&D Lego product coming, right? So I'm a little ahead of the curve on that one. That's okay. I'll switch over as soon as the official minifigs are available, right? So, actually, I'll just add them, right? But here's the newest physical product. It is Trivial Pursuit Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons is now officially connected to the physical product world of Trivial Pursuit. Now, I'm going to say this flat out, okay? I don't think for 1 second that the suits at Hasbro and the suits at Trivial Pursuit understand that they have permissioned 10 million Dungeon Masters across the earth to tell stories between Forgotten Realms, the official, the default official realm of Dungeons & Dragons, and every single intellectual property world that Trivial Pursuit connects to. But when you connect a physical product to Dungeons & Dragons, just like when you print Tony Stark's face on a towel, people are going to use it to dry their shoulders after they get out of a shower, right? And when you connect Dungeons & Dragons to your IP that has multiple worlds, Dungeon Masters very logically are going to say, thank you for the invitation for me to run official D&D games in your world, right? Because that's how merchandise works, right? Like, if I buy sneakers with Batman's face on them, nobody's going to get upset if I take them out and I walk on the streets with them, right? So nobody should get upset when every single intellectual property that's ever been connected to Trivial Pursuit becomes fair game to tell official Dungeons & Dragons stories in those worlds, in my humble opinion, right? And so I'm really excited at this seventh connection. This is huge. There is now a seventh product platform that officially connects Dungeons & Dragons to literally 100 plus different worlds. And Trivial Pursuit, I would guess 200-300 individual, quite unique worlds. And here's the other one. Basically, Dungeons & Dragons is literally famous for saying, okay, tokens, miniatures, counters, clocks, dials, like all this minutia, right? And lots of companies have supplied these materials for us to advance our Dungeons & Dragons game and to create these really unique physical manifestations of our character sheets and all those kind of things. How do we use the Trivial Pursuit pies? How do we use the wedges, right? There are 6 of them. That matches, there are 6 wedges in the circle. That matches exactly the number of attributes we have, right? And so one of the things I was thinking is, +2, map the attributes directly to the wedges, right? And you have one value if you have a wedge, and you have another value if you don't have a wedge for that, specific attribute. Or maybe you have multiple wedges, right? And each one is a +1, right? And then also, how do we use the cards? The cards have these amazing questions with answers on them. How does that impact the games we're playing, right? The other thing is, can the Lord of the Rings Trivial Pursuit game, with all that knowledge about the Lord of the Rings game, when we choose to when we go ahead and then take the invite and start running a Dungeons & Dragons Lord of the Rings campaign, how do we leverage those cards, right? And I have a few ideas, but I don't even need to, right? I don't need to have the ideas, and the reason why is the second you attach your worlds to Dungeons & Dragons, you are, in my humble opinion, fully permissioning every Dungeon Master to tell stories in your world, because famously, since 1974, Dungeons & Dragons is a very clear is a storytelling engine. This is one of the reasons why J.K. Rowling would not let anyone touch her, would not allow a TTRPG to be made of Harry Potter, because she did not. She's famously like selfish about her world and doesn't want people telling stories in it, right? And so logically, if you're connecting your product to Dungeons and Dragons, you're begging dungeon masters to tell stories in your world, right? And so this is incredibly exciting. Trivial Pursuit is a really big deal. It costs $70, and honestly, I don't even think you can get it for Christmas. I won't be surprised if it's sold out and non-available, right? Because the only price I saw for it was like $70. But I'm very excited about getting it, and I'm also very excited that like every time I make a Trivial Pursuit purchase going forward, that's a Dungeons and Dragons purchase. Those are very viable official game accoutrements for Dungeons and Dragons at this point, because Wizards of the Coast has anointed it, and Hasbro has anointed it and said, Trivial Pursuit is not just some product; it's officially connected to Dungeons and Dragons. When you make a Trivial Pursuit, purchase, you're making a Dungeons and Dragons purchase. Thank you, right? Like I'm buying Lego at a rate never before seen in my family, right? Because those are, that's D&D product to me, right? All that's my humble opinion. I'm so excited to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.